I was going to lead with a song. And he said, "Are you practicing to be on Ellen DeGeneres?" Perhaps. I'm dreaming big. I'm dreaming big. Marcia, I just want to apologize. I'm not in my PJs. I've been in PJs and I graduated to tracky bums for the last 7 months. And this is a treat for me. To wear jeans and heels, this is a treat. So I want to thank you. I was listening to your introduction of me. I had to stand back because I thought, don't let the tears come. And I just want to say, you are the most perfectly imperfect person I know. You are raw, you are real, you're authentic. You allow others to shine so easily. We always walk away from spending time with you feeling better, and our tummy's full. That is for sure. Right. When Marcia asked me to share my story, I thought, I'm not worthy. I have this cancer. I haven't knocked it. I haven't healed. I'm not worthy of telling my story. And then I realized life is not about ever arriving anywhere. It's about the journey. It's how you deal with it. It's how you let your light shine. It's how you find the lessons in everything. And it's how you move forward, and it's how you touch lives, and it's how you open up and allow other lives to touch you. And then I realized I am worthy. I am worthy. And we are all worthy. I don't think you have an idea of your greatness. You don't understand how powerful you are. We all are. And I would just love to give you a glimpse of how powerful you are. And if I walk away today and one person understands their power and how their light can influence their lives and others, then today's a good day. So, I must warn you, I cry. I cry a lot. A lot. I sure cry when I'm sad, but that's hardly ever. I'm so filled with gratitude. It literally splashes out of every pore in my body. I am so excited about this experience and what it has brought me. And cancer truly has changed my life. And so you're warned. There may be tears. I don't hold them back. I'm quite a chatty Cathy, as anybody knows that knows me can attest to. I have a head so full of so much. I have had the most amazing journey. I've had the most wonderful experience. I have been shown the most magnificent vision of what my future holds, and I have been shown and guided to the most magnificent places. I have been touched by the other side. I have been shown how to get messages, and I am so grateful for that and for the fact that I have chemo brain. It's a very real thing. I have these key cards. I hope I'm going to stay on track with them. Right, so my journey began last year, October, when I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. They said it was terminal. I didn't believe them. I think I was in denial at first. I couldn't understand how you absorb something like that, how you take it in, where do you put it, what do you do with that information? I had no idea. I got a ovarian cyst, which was the size of a cricket ball. They removed it on the left side. They then found that there was an adenocarcinoma on that, and that was glandular. They had to locate it. So they found it in the colon, round about here, and from there they then gave me a couple of options. I was certain that with all my research I didn't want to go the chemo route. I didn't want to go the medical route. I wanted natural. Everything in my body just screamed natural. The medical fraternity are there to hurt us. Not only is the C word that we all fear cancer, but it is also chemo, and chemo has got a really bad rap for the possibility to heal us. And not only in South Africa, all over, we are so scared of cancer. We are so scared of chemo. We are so scared of what it means. We just don't understand it. So I went into this information frenzy, and I just researched. I went into a type of isolation where I hardly slept, and I researched for about 3 weeks. I was like a deer in the headlights. I didn't see anybody. I hardly spoke to anybody. I just researched. I was so overwhelmed by the enormity of having to make a decision about my life and how I was going to go forward in this journey. And I felt so alone because only I could make this decision. And I'm really grateful for my husband. He never once told me what to do. He never once even gave his opinion. And it made me feel so lonely because I really had to do this on my own. And I then realized many months later that I was so grateful for his being quiet because he allowed me to find my voice. And that is what we all need. We need to find our voice. We need to quiet, and we need to find our voice. And once you find your voice, you will never again play small. You will just never play small. And that is what we all do. So I chose this natural route. I rid my home and my cupboards and my lifestyle of anything that had a chemical in it. I was obsessed with nails. I took them off after 20 years. Hair dye, cream on your face. I'm sure you've all heard of all these magnificent natural products that we can get, and they're expensive. And I went wild. Mascara, you can get organic mascara, you can get organic lipstick. All these things I delved into, and I was so fearful. Eventually I would take something and then I would read an article that says there's an ingredient in it that you can't have, and then I would stop that, and then I would take something else. I found a quantum physician who I wanted to have as part of my team, and I went to frequency therapy, and that was going to be my solution. I had a raw juice diet for months, for weeks. I then went on to solids, where I just had raw food, nothing from animals, no dairy, no eggs, absolutely, definitely no meat, everything raw and plant-based. And I then realized that I was starving the cancer of sugar, but I was feeding it with this immense fear that I had developed about everything that I was putting in my mouth, everything in my environment. I used to look out there at the pollution and go, oh my word, I need to move to the coast. Everything in my life was fear-based. And fear, as we know, emits or releases cortisol in the blood, and the cancer was lapping that up. So much so that on the 4th of January, I was rushed to hospital. I found that the cancer had jumped to the right ovary, and I now had an ovarian cyst about that size. I looked pregnant. It was growing at a rapid rate because it was hemorrhaging, so I was bleeding internally. I was weaker than I'd ever been in my life. I didn't even realize it. I thought it is my body fighting, and I thought that I was on a path to healing. I just believed it. But under all of that, in the murkiness, in the quiet, was immense fear. It was taking over my body. I would actually feel the fear coursing through my veins. I would be shaking like this. I never even realized what it was. It was a companion that was with me for so long that I never even thought that it was called fear. And this is what put me in this position that I now found myself in hospital. So the doctors then said to us, four actually specialists said to us, this is the end of the road. That ship sailed where you could have done something, where you could have possibly had chemo. It sailed. You are now facing imminent death. There is nothing that we can do for you. We cannot even operate on this hemorrhaging ovarian cyst because they said that it was attached to all my organs. It had been growing there for so long, and we said it hadn't. It arrived practically in the month of December. All the scans showed that there was nothing before. It just arrived, and we couldn't understand it, and they couldn't understand it. And they were not meeting with my husband. They were not looking at my scans. They were not interested to speak to him. They just said, there's nothing we can do for me. I even had one surgeon. I remember him standing against the wall as I was lying in bed, and he put his knee up against the wall, and he said, you need to understand that we get really emotionally invested in our patients. So if you bleed out on the operating table, it's really traumatic for us. And I thought, is this not your passion? Is this not the thing that you do? I will rather die trying. Give me the opportunity. And they didn't want to operate. He even said he didn't want to feel bullied into operating on me. They sent me a counselor who guided me into accepting my death and suggested that I write letters to my children for their 21st birthday and for their wedding one day. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't think that anybody in the medical fraternity wouldn't do everything to try and help a person. If my choice is to just go for it, I would rather die trying. And they said no. We couldn't understand it. My husband would sit there day in and day out. He would force them to meet with him. He would beg them. He would say, what if this was your wife? What would you say? And they said, I would just help her accept that this is where she's going. And we couldn't understand it. We just couldn't accept it. And that is the only time where my husband really pushed from his side. I can honestly say that if it wasn't for him, I would not be here today. He did everything in his power to be heard. He sat outside doctors' rooms. He forced them to see him. He forced certain scans, where they put a needle in and take out the fluid and evaluate it. He forced them to understand that we should at least try. They were giving me, I think I had about 6 blood transfusions. At one point, I even had iron, neat, put into my body. I was so weak. I needed protein to be fed to me with supplements, and I couldn't eat and I couldn't drink. And I was on a drip, and my body was blowing up. My feet were like little marshmallows with these toes sticking out. I didn't recognize them. I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. I was blown up, and I was just lying there. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. My husband eventually found that we can possibly go to surgeons in Pretoria East, but we had to be stabilized before we could even move. So he came to me one night. It was a Wednesday night, I'll never forget. And he came to my bedside and he brought this book by Anita Moojani, Dying to Be Me. And he said to me, my Lily, he calls me that, my Lily, you need to pull an Anita Moojani. These people have given up on you. Our backs are against the wall. You need to pull an Anita Moojani. Now, we were introduced to this book about 3 or 4 years ago, and I read it. It's about this woman. She's got lymphoma. She had it for 3 or 4 years. She was stage 4. She was terminal. She was in her final stages of her life, and her family were called to her bedside, and she slipped away into a coma where she was practically dead for about 20-30 hours. And in the book, she actually had a near-death experience where she met her maker, so to speak, or she went to the other side and she got all this information, and she just knew that if she came back, her body would be healed miraculously. She just knew it. And she goes through all these things that happened and what she learned on the other side. Now, my husband and I never read the same book, yet after I read this book, he picked it up and he read it. And I mean, we weren't really in that position, so we didn't really resonate with the book, and that was that. We put the book one side. So he picked this up about 4 years later, and he brought it to my bedside. And if you'll indulge me, I just want to read a couple of things, because this was the turning point for me. This was the realization that anything is possible. This was where my story actually started. Dying to Be Me. He was highlighting and all sorts of things, scribbling in the margin, and you could see that he was doing it through tears because some of the pages were wet when he brought them to me. And the writing was all over the place, so forgive me. He said, read this, but more importantly, believe it like a child. I'm going to read just a few little pieces that really stood out to me and were very pertinent for today. Even if I chose not to go back, everything was exactly as it should be in the grand tapestry on life. He was giving me permission to, if I didn't want to fight this, I'm still behind you. And that was actually so beautiful, because that allowed me to be me, and that is where my voice came from, because I knew that this journey is entirely mine. I've got the support that I need, but it's mine. I discovered that since I'd realized who I really was and understood the magnificence of my true self, if I chose to go back to life, my body would heal rapidly. Further down, it was then that I understood that my body is only a reflection of my internal state. If my inner self were aware of its greatness and connection with all that is, my body would soon reflect that and heal rapidly. These are all bits and pieces. They're random. I'm reading them as he gave them to me. I have a purpose of some sort yet to be filled, and it would unfold before me. The only thing I had to do was be myself. We are pure love. This meant never being afraid of who you are, therefore being love. And being our true self is one and the same thing. Being the love I truly am, I would heal both myself and others. Now that you know the truth of who you really are, go back and live your life fearlessly. And he writes at the bottom, you are love. Because you are love, you, scratches out deserve, you are meant to be loved. Love loves love. Another little portion here. I would so completely overcome my fear of everything, from dying to cancer to chemotherapy, that this would prove to me that it had been the fear destroying me. He writes at the bottom here, is there fear of pain? Fear does not serve me. And I like how he wrote it. He wrote it in a way that was very personal, as if I were reading it to myself. I've lost my sense of self. I'm not connected with who I truly am and what I've come here to be. I give my power away to external sources. Having an inside-out view means being able to fully trust my inner guidance. It's as though what I feel has an impact on my entire universe. In other words, because I'm at the center of my cosmic web, the whole is affected by me. He writes on the side, I cure it. And at the bottom here, cancer is maybe a hurdle to test my belief system, to show that others want to help you, that oneness, that you are not alone. And the last little portion here, I can get in touch with the whole universe by turning inward. That part that he brought to me, it opened up my heart to my husband in a way that I've never known before. And there's this tiny little snippet that just says it all to me. I just have to play it. You're a sky.